To start with, a relationship in databases is a situation where there is a logical association between two or more database tables. It helps improve table structures and reduce redundant data. Understanding relationship in databases is important as it allows you to fetch data from multiple tables and simultaneously and helps ensure that data in databases are consistent and updated.
What is data? Before we get into the concept of database, we should first understand what data is. Data are pieces of information and facts being considered and related. Examples of data are data of relating people, individuals, as would be a person's name, age, height, etc. Data is not limited to an object or fact, as image, pictures, and files are also considered as data.
There are a few key terms that would be useful to help one understand data more particularly. The relation between data and databases. Fields within a database. A field contains the most detailed information about events, people, objects, and transactions. Record. A record is a collection of related fields. Table. A table is a collection of related records within a unique table name. Database. A database is a collection of related tables.
So, what is database? A database is referred to a collection of logically related information organized so that it can be easily accessed, managed, and updated. Databases are generally accessed electronically from computer systems and are usually controlled by a database management system. The database administrator is the individual responsible for managing the database, including database security, access control, backup, and disaster recovery.
Now we're going to talk about the components of a database. The first one is known as hardware. Hardware is a physical electronic device such as computer and hard disks that offer an interface between the computers and the real world systems. Basically, it is the physical, tangible component of a device. On the other hand, software is a set of programs that is used to manage and control the database. The database includes database software, operating system, and network software that is used to access our data and share it with other users, and also the applications that is used to access the data. Basically, software are the instructions, programs, and data that is used to operate the system and also execute some tasks.
Data are raw facts and information that need to be organized and processed to make it more meaningful. Database dictionaries are used to centralize, document, control, and coordinate the use of data within an organization. A database is a repository of information about database, also called metadata. Next, procedures. Procedures refer to the instruction used in database management system and encompass everything from instructions to set up and install, log in and log out, manage day-to-day operations, take backups of data and generate reports. Next, database access language. Database access language is language used to write commands to access, update and delete data stored in database. Users can write commands using database access language before submitting them to the database for execution. Throughout utilizing throughout utilizing the language, users can create new databases, tables, insert data and delete data.
So, what is a relational database, also known as RDBMS? A relational database is a type of database that stores and provides access to data points that are related to one another. Relational databases are based on the relational model, an intuitive, straightforward way of representing data in tables. In a relational database, each row in table is a record with a unique ID called the key. The columns of table hold attributes of the data, and each record usually has a value for each attribute, making it easy to establish the relationships among the data points.
What is a relationship in database? To answer what is relationship in database, it is an association between tables. Those associations create using join statements to retrieve data. It is a condition that exists between two database tables, in which one table contains a foreign key that references the primary key of the other table. Relationships enable relational databases to divide and store data in separate tables while connecting disparate data items.
Why relationships are important in database? It facilitates the refinement of table structures and reduction of redundant data. As you establish a relation between two tables, you make minor adjustments of the table structures. These modifications may make the structures more efficient and reduce the amount of redundant data that may exist in the table.
So, what are the different types of relationships in a database? Starting with one-to-one relationship. This type of relationship permits a maximum of a single record on both sides. The primary key corresponds to either one or no data in another table. In simple words, here is the mapping of a single instance of an entity with a single instance of other entity. Here, the primary key of one entity is accessible in other entity as a foreign key. For example, suppose the two entities are individual and a driver's license. The individual has information about a person, while the driver license contains the information about a person's driving license. The relationship between a driver license and the person is optional, as not all individuals possess driving license, whereas if the relationship between a person and a driver license is obligatory, that is, every instance of a driver license has a relationship with an individual.
Examples of one-to-one relationship. Each spouse in a marriage has only one partner. Your address has a single postal identification number, and that PIN refers to a single geographical region. There's a single base pay rate for each employee of a company. Each client ID of a company has a single client ID. A student identification card of a school corresponds to a single student. A book edition has a single publisher.
One-to-many relationships. The widely used database relationship is one-to-many, when it is a cardinality type of database relationship between the two entitles. One records of one table may have multiple relationships with one or more records in the other table. It is feasible when a foreign key of one table references the primary key. For instance, the state includes multiple cities, but the cities come under that single state only.
One-to-many relationships and many-to-one relationships are pretty similar. The only difference is in their directionality. So the availability of the entity and the side of the relationship that it is on determines if it's one-to-many or many-to-one. For instance, a teacher teaching multiple courses is said to have one-to-many relationships, but from the point of view of the course, it is said to be many-to-one. Another example would be all of us working on this project. The project, from the point of view of the project, it is said to be one-to-many, and from the group members' point of view, it is said to be many-to-one.
Many to many relationships. Many to many database relationships are relatively uncommon. It is a kind of cardinality that describes a connection between two entities. Multiple records from one table have a relation with multiple records from another table. In this case, each record in table A may have multiple matching records in table B. Again, each record in table B may have multiple corresponding entries in table A. It comprises two one-to-many relationships between the two tables. This type of relationship is challenging to establish. There are introduction of third table to solve and execute the many-to-many relationships in the relational database. The third table is called is a connection table or junction table. A junction table connects two one-to-many relationships to create a many-to-many relationships.
Here are some examples of many-to-many relationship. The member of family can own multiple pets. A doctor has many patients and some patients visit many doctors. An employee can be responsible for many tasks and each employer can manage each task. Many customers can buy multiple products. A salesman can have many clients and each client might have many salespeople. One person can belong to multiple communities and a community can have many individuals. One album can include multiple songs and multiple artists may get involved in those songs.
Why table is called a relation. In a relational database, the table is relational because a column row format stores in relationship between data. The columns represent the attributes of the table while the row represents the data records. A tuple refers to a single row.
What are relations in SQL? In structured query language or SQL, a relation is collection of data objects with identical characteristics. Identical characteristics are a list of attributes with predetermined data types. In SQL, professionals refer to these objects as tuples. An object with three tuples is triple, and those with four attributes are quadruple, and with six attributes are sextuple.
What is the difference between entity and attribute? Entity and attribute are two fundamental terms in database management system. The primary difference between them is that entity is a real-world object, whereas attribute describes the characteristics of entity. The entity may be tangible and intangible. Comparably, each attribute has a specific domain and contribute to the information of key.
A primary key of a relational table in databases is used to uniquely identify each record in a table. Databases use keys to differentiate, classify, and store each record. It also helps to establish relationships between these records. Primary keys can be of a single attribute or it can be a combination of multiple attributes. It is also used to identify related data in other tables, and it is necessary to use primary keys when you are making a table. Each column or 2-3 columns in a table is always dedicated to using a primary key. So basically, primary key's job is to identify each unique values in a table. It makes sure that none of the values are duplicated, none of the values are null. It is also important to restore, update, and delete specific records. A good example would be your ID number or a vehicle identification number.
What is foreign key in a database? A foreign key is a column in which one table that corresponds to the primary key column in another table. This connects the two keys. Foreign keys may not have unique values in the reference table. A foreign key can cross-reference tables and it effectively employs the values of attributes in the reference relation to limit the domain of one or more attributes in a referencing relation. This concept implies that for each tuple in the referencing relation projected over the referencing attributes, it is essential to have a tuple in the reference relation projected over the same attributes such that the values in each of the referencing attributes correlate with the corresponding values in the reference relation. In simpler words, the columns that hold the primary key value to a specific table can become a foreign key to a second table.
So, what are the advantages of relational databases? First of all, it's a simple model. The simplest model of a relational database does not require any complex structure or query to process the database. It has a simple architectural process as compared to a database structure. Its simple architecture can be handled with simple SQL queries to access and design the relational database.
Data accuracy. Relational database may have many tables related to each other through primary and secondary key. Therefore, there are fewer chances for duplication of data. The accuracy of data in relational database is greater than any other database.
Easy to access data. The data can be easily accessed from the relational database and it does not follow any pattern or way to access the data. One can access any data from a database table using SQL queries. Each table in the associated database is joined through any relational queries such as join and conditional descriptions to connect all tables to get the required data.
Security. It sets a limit that allows specific users to use relational database in RDBMS. Collaborate. It allows multiple users to access the same database at the same time.